and I'll share my screen with you. Okay, and then I'm gonna bring up my screen. Okay, so we are going to take a look at something called as context in message mapping. So, so context is not really a function or a property, but what context does is it helps us handle certain scenarios, certain kinds of scenarios. So, for example, right? So, I think I changed my example, but let me explain a bit of the definition first. Basically, um, it helps us to combine or mix groups of values. Okay. Now, let's say you have, like, I'll directly switch to my example. So, if I show you what kind of XSDs I'm using. So, on one side, I have customer, right? And each customer node has two things: customer ID and its invoice amount, right? And there'll be multiple such customers. Now, in the target, this is a very common requirement, just to be letting you in the common projects, and that is the reason I changed the example also, because earlier the example was not really relatable directly. So my target is that I want in the target something like this: customer ID and its total amount. For example, here I can have multiple. For one customer node, I can have multiple customer IDs. Let's say I have um, 10 customers.
Are you showing something on the screen? Because I can see
Oh,
the
sorry, sorry,
recording on
sorry.
the screen only.
Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. I think I got my second screen back, so that's why I'm a bit lost there. Okay, anyways, now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good that you remember. We'll restart it. So I'll show you the sample payload first. Okay, so this is
Mm,
my sample payload.
mm,
Okay, and what I want to achieve is, so I have like customer and its various invoices, right? What I want
mm,
is I want it to be something like this, C1 and its total amount, right? For example, here it's 300, and then C2 is my
okay.
next customer, and I want to achieve 150 plus so 300 400. Okay, so this is the final
Mm,
result that I want, and this is a very common requirement, right? So let's see how we can achieve it in CPI. Right. So of course, what I did was I'm just skipping the basic stuff because I want to spend more time on this. So as you know, so what I did was I just took two sample XMLs with ChatGPT and then asked it to create XSDs for me. So XSDs it has already created. So these are my XSDs. This is amount source customer ID. So this is my source XSD. This is my target XSD. So this you can get it using ChatGPT easily. Now.
mm,
Um, Now, how we can achieve this, right? So, what if one thing is very simple that okay, I map customer ID to customer ID, and then I map amount to total amount. Just ignore the grand total for now. This is the second part of the explanation, right? So, I mapped simply amount to the total amount. What do you think will happen by default? Will it just sum it up, or I have to do something?
I think we have to do some concatenation between all the amounts.
Yeah. So, customer ID is a straight mapping. Let me show you the amount. So, in this, all I did was sum, right?
Mm,
And let me show you the result first. So, source, this is the payload I have, right? The same payload that I showed you earlier. And when I click on test, okay, it summed it up. Okay, but if you are thinking that it is just because of this, it's not, right? So obviously, this is a function which actually does it. But my source had multiple things, right? How did some know how to loop and combine, right? That
mm,
is something which the context plays a role. So context, as I said, groups your values, right? So right now my context, if you see, it shows each of the node that I have in my XML. It will show in the context of choices, right? I can set my context. So by default, it had set it to customer, but I can set it to customers. I can want set it to invoice also, right? Let's see what happens. Let's do it at the invoice and then see the output.
yeah.
Okay. So if you see, what it did was it picked up the first value, right? Because my context is set to invoice. So at the invoice level, at the first invoice level, it will sum up everything it has, right? And first invoice is amount 100. Similarly for C2, sorry, my bad. So first invoice 100, and the second invoice it is 200, right? So that's how it is going at the invoice level and summing up at that level, right? So it's like a, if you've ever, I am sure you know the basic programming, the concept of a loop, right? So it's not
Hmm.
exactly a loop, but it will tell you what is a group of values that you need to consider. Now let's try one more thing.
So how this worked actually when we used invoice as a context,
Hmm.
then why it is showing 100 and 200? I Can you please explain that to
Sure.
me?
So see, what I did was I set the context at the invoice level, right? So
Hmm.
this means that it will consider all the invoices. Let's say I have two amounts under this invoice, right? So it will
Hmm.
sum up both the amounts and give
Yeah.
me the value, right? And then it goes around the next time, because if you see the customer, when it goes for the next customer, right? So next node of the customer, let's see what the customer. So customer is not having the context. This customer ID is at the customer level, right?
Hmm.
So customer ID is at the customer level, but then invoice is at the invoice level. Let me actually show you one more thing, and then I'll show you by changing this XSD. Okay, let me show you the grand total, and then probably it will make a little more sense. So I don't know whether you notice or not. It is calculating grand total correctly. What is my grand total? Grand total is the sum of all these values, irrespective of what the customer is. Okay, so
Okay.
it is like 300 and 400, 700. Okay, so for
Hmm.
that, what I did was I set the context of my amount at the root level,
Customer level, root level.
customers,
Okay.
right? Customers is my root. So what I did was, what it will do is, okay, just imagine it as it's a blind robot, and it will just do whatever instructions you give. So you gave them the instruction that, okay, go to the customer level and read all the field names called amount. So 100, 200, 150, 250. It read, okay,
Hmm.
and then I pass it on to sum, and sum it up to 700. Right? Sum plays a
If
role.
I gave
Mhm.
if I give context as customer ID, then it will sum up 100 plus 200 separately, and 150 plus 250 differently, right?
Yes, yes. And that is what was happening in the previous one. See, the total amount before I had changed it. So this was at the customer level. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's how for per customer ID. So because I set it at this level, right? So what it is doing is it is going inside each of these, getting both the amounts and passing it to the sum before going through the next loop.
Okay.
So the just know that looping is a separate part, right? Looping is happening through the mapping, because I map,
Hmm.
let's say, customer to customer, right? So now see it map.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay, now let's try to. So this is something that we should like do a lot of practice, and then we should play around, try to study. Okay, what is happening if I do this change? What is happening if I do this change? So let's try something like this. Okay. So total. So good part with the mapping is you don't need to really come out and test. Sometimes
Hmm.
you have to, because sometimes what happens is, if it's a complex mapping, the cache stores some values and your changes do not reflect. So in that case, it's best to just come out of the iFlow altogether and refresh your browser and come back again. Right? But most of the
Okay.
times, like in our case, it is a very simple mapping, so it works without doing anything. Okay. So are you clear on how this happened now?
Yes.
Because
So
I had
first it
set it
took
to
invoice
invoice
wise.
level, right? But then the downside to do it is, and why this is incorrect is, it is skipping my second invoice, because for one customer, like I mean, the header note is mapped, right? So it goes into just this invoice one node, not every node,
Hmm.
right? So for example, when I had set it to customer, then inside customer, it will go and see all the amount fields, right? Similarly,
Hmm.
here in the case of invoice, because it knows this is my boundary, right? So I will just go into this boundary and then give the result back.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
Yes.
what I was doing is, okay, I think I should just save it on this number where I will go away. Um, let's just run it from outside one second. 16, 17. Where's my... Oh, okay, because I had changed the payload. So just the way I had designed it is that without doing the postman, I'll just put the body here. And since
Mm.
I changed, I had like this different example in mind earlier, but then okay, let me put this payload and then it should work. So see, that is what. So with the mapping, the problem sometimes happens is that the troubleshooting is sometimes hard because it gives you sometimes very generic errors. So you should know the right techniques how to troubleshoot it, and then it is fairly easy.
Mm.
Okay, now it is a success rate because my message was wrong. So I got the transformed this one, right? And I think
Total
you're clear
amount.
about this grand total as well, right? So grand total, for grand total, what I did was I just set the context at the very root. So
Where?
okay, let me show you. Right? So this grand total, right? So for amount field, come on, see, customers,
Mm-hmm.
the root, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So now, so this is about the context, right? So now let me show you. So there are a lot of functions as well, right? So for functions, we use some of the functions. Some of the functions we may use in the future, but I would want you to. So I'll try to give this in the exercise. Try to use the functions as much as you can. Okay, yeah, because this will give you a good practice. Now let
Okay.
me show you something. Da, 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 da. So, I'm just trying to. All right. So there's a function called collapse context, right? So I just wanted to show you that. Um, okay, let's try to use it. So let me first restore the amount field there. I think I have restored it. So this should be at the customer level. And
Mm.
then let's simulate and see if the values is restored. Okay, I got the right value, right?
Mm.
200 and 200. Okay, now there is a function called collapse context. Okay.
Mm.
Actually, there are two functions which we will just see. One is collapse context and one is remove context. Okay, what happened? Okay, let me see. So when you get such error, what you can do is I did it at the root level, right? So what will happen at the root level is it will at this level, the customer's level, it will just read the first amount field it gets, which is 100, and that's
Mm.
it will stop there. The context is now it has flattened the context. The loop will not, there is no loop concept now, and it will give you the value as 100 in this case.
Yeah.
So right now it will be a bit difficult to imagine how we use it. I can give you basically some pointers like this case, right? This is a typical use case at the customer level. You want to sum amount and all of that. uh, I've not seen this function used a lot, but this is one of those things that sometimes you are stuck in a very weird kind of problem that you're not able to find solution, and suddenly you do Google and it gives you or ChatGPT, it gives you that use collapse context. Then you should know that, okay, then it will click to you suddenly that, okay, yes, it is right that, okay, I can solve this problem using collapse context. To be
Okay.
honest with you, and you will see myself, sometimes like Because what we used to like, if I have to solve a problem in my sort of a big project where I did was, so most of my team was new, right? So whenever they used to get stuck, we used to find it easier to just find a relevant groovy, because
Mm-hmm.
doing it programmatically is much easier, right? Sometimes, you know.
Hmm.
So that is the reason. But yeah, I mean, that's being said, that this function is definitely useful as well. Okay, so
And
now,
you,
sorry,
okay,
go ahead.
nothing. You last time said that instead of groovy, use this mostly.
That is a best practice. So if you read any best practices, it is always preferred to use the graphical mapping. The reason is
Hmm.
that graphical mapping is easier. Let's say if I use it, if I create a graphical mapping for you, it will be easier to read because it is all the standard functions, right? But the
Yeah.
moment I introduce groovy in that, then you have to interpret that groovy, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
why for any low code no code platform, it is always a good practice to use the standard tools. But you know, there are so many low code tools I can tell you, but still, uh, coding is still, for a developer, coding is still easier, right? So I'm telling you both the sides of it. What is the best
Mm-hmm.
practices and what happens on the ground sometimes.
Okay.
So let's, instead of collapse context, try to use something called as remove context. Okay. Let's use it at the customer level. Don't give me an error. I hate those errors. Okay.
Mm.
So we have applied it at the
Customer level.
customer level. So let's see what is happening here. Okay. Display queue. So it will show me all the amounts, right? And
Hmm.
remove context is supposed to remove all the context but keep all the values, right? The difference with collapse context is collapse context picks the first value, and remove context keeps all the values. See, in this case, so
Hmm.
it is truly flattening the thing, the loop, but it is keeping everything. It's not just picking up the first value. So in this case, 100, 140, 200, all the values, right? It kept, right? And
Okay.
then it obviously it fed it to some, and it did the same. So even if I, in this case, because I'm using remove context, even if I do it at the customer level, it will be the same output, right?
Yes.
So this is what a remove, and this is very useful because sometimes it happens as that you want to read all the values, right? So you will just use the remove context in this case.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to cover one more thing, but I think we should give it some time for you to practice as well, not introduce too many concepts at a time. I wanted to cover, actually, there's something called as, which we used to call in PIP as UDF, user defined function. And in this case, you call them as custom functions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just give you a glimpse of it and we'll do it in the next session. So
Okay.
in this case, when you create a custom function, like I was saying, right, this is one of my favorites when we get into trouble, right? If you cannot solve
Hmm.
problem using the standard mapping, then go for this, right? So within the message mapping, you can even use coding, right? So you can code using Groovy or JavaScript, right? So you just You create a custom function, let's say CS1. It will open an editor. So this is by default a Groovy, but you can also do a Java mapping, JavaScript, sorry, not Java mapping. And then it gives you a nice guidance also that, you know, now you have a Groovy here, but in the Groovy, how will you read the various values, right? From my iFlow, if I want to use read a property or a header, and in my mapping, if I want to, you know, let's say, let me show you quickly. So this custom function is created, right? So in this custom function, there's only one argument, right? So if I show you edit script, so see arg1, right? But you have the option of extending it. If, for example, you see here, right? So custom function string one, string two. Let's actually show you. Oops, sorry. Uh, so double slashes for comment. I think you would be familiar with that already. Is it commented? This one's not. Now it is. Okay. So let me. Okay. Okay. Why is it not commenting? It should be. Hmm. Okay. So in this case, there's some error here. Okay, what is wrong? What is wrong here? Da, 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 da. I'm ending the brackets correctly. What am I missing? Return path. Yeah, it seems okay to me. Again, okay. Uh, okay. Okay. The name got changed, right? So this is just I wanted to show you. So you can give how many arguments you want, right? Unless in this standard functions you have standard input, depending on how they are defined. But custom
Hmm.
function you can give P1 and P2 are input, and uh, whatever you write it as return will become your output, and that's how you can. So the good part here is, see, you, let's say you have some complex logic, right? In that
Hmm.
case, um, you can simply take the help of, now it is even more easier with ChatGPT. Earlier we used to do like a mix of, at that time ChatGPT was very new.
Hmm.
So it used to give incorrect syntax for Groovy, which was not working in CPI. So what we used to do is, mostly JavaScript and Groovy script syntax are similar. So
Hmm.
even if you Google and if you find that, okay, I want to solve this problem, so obviously the logic we were writing, I'm telling you the old stuff, right? That what you used to do is that, okay, if you are able to write the basic syntax of how you will achieve a basic problem, then the logic you can just figure out, right, by bits and
Hmm.
pieces. But now even all of that you can just forget. what functionality you want. You can write ChatGPT that I want this a logic to be written in a Groovy script, and this is within message mapping. You can give it
Mm-hmm.
some basic syntax as well, and it will give you nice, very correct Groovy. This I've experienced it myself as well. So now the job is very easy, but at least even for that easy, you should know how to use it, right? So that is what I was just explaining you, that this is how you can use it. So next, what we'll do is, what I'll do is I'll give you some exercise also. You attempt
Hmm.
on your own, and if not,
Okay.
anyways, because we have not covered Groovy, right? So
Yeah.
try on your own, and hopefully you should be able to do. And next class, probably then we'll anyways move to Groovy after taking your doubts and other things. We'll spend some time. I'm thinking, because we had some gap also. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you are able to do, if you're busy tomorrow, I understand because it's a festive season. But if you can spend some time tomorrow, like you do some practice, and if we can close this message mapping doubts by tomorrow, we'll spend like
Mm-hmm.
an hour. Then we will move to a new topic from next week.
Okay.
I mean, let me know. Based on your comfort, I don't want to push you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with this, if you're interested, let me know. I will.
Like you are saying tomorrow you will take session for message mapping doubts.
Ha, that's what I'm thinking. That if you want to have that, we can have this tomorrow, so that